locally sourced, organically cooled, and filtered kryptonite.
And it's denatured kryptonite. It's already, it's not radioactive.
Yeah. It's on whatever. How many half lives does it take to not take a life?
I don't know. Ask Mr. Owl.
Recording in progress.
Recording in progress.
Grabación en marcha.
Ooh. Oh, bilingual recording in progress. Is that what have you heard? Have you like turned Zoom onto Spanish and it says it in Spanish for you?
No, that was kind of an approximation. That was a guess.
No, it's a guess. All right. Well, I'm sure one of our many listeners can comment.
Let us know déjanos saber en los comentarios si me he equivocado. Yeah.
By the way,
I
this
think,
this episode will just be Bamis translating everything I say into Spanish.
Oh yeah, sure. That'll be fantastic content.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was a guess. It might be more like I don't know I've never heard it in real life. It could be like la grabación ya comenzaba. I have no idea.
That might be a fun thing to find out. It sounds like you're outside and it sounds like spring, and that sounds like a good idea. I might do that myself.
Oh, thank goodness. I thought you were going to say, I don't know if we can use this audio because I'm not in, my booth that I've constructed.
No, I think the audio is actually quite nice with the birds.
Okay, fantastic. It's weird talking to you now because I was just listening to our previous episode and my brain is just adjusted to just listening to this conversation rather than having it live. So I'm having a little bit of a moment.
You're having a real time at the flat circle moment.
Yeah, but it's not even a flat circle. It's like a spiral it's like a serpent eating its anyway. I wanted to mention two things about well, actually it's the Harry Potter episode.
Ever heard. Mm-hmm.
The Harry Potter episode.
The one where we wonder why Harry Potter isn't adopted by the Weasleys.
Yes, and I did say the first time we brought it up, I remembered, there is a reason for it. But then later, I forgot that again, and I was back up saying, yeah, why couldn't they do that? But there is a specific reason, but it's not discussed until way later, until books later. So I imagine what happened is someone asked that question, or maybe she asked it of herself. She was like, I got to make a reason for her not to have just lived with the Weasleys. And then she did.
She's like, why did I torture this poor boy for 4 or 5 books?
Mm-hmm.
Guess I better come up with a reason.
The other thing I wanted to say, that intro outro music, I dig it. The levels are off. Like the intro is so very much louder than the sounds of our voices. I was listening to it in the car this time, and it's really apparent because I'm listening to it, and then when the music comes in, it's like, I was like, oh shit.
Okay, I'll bring down the levels on the.
Yeah, my speakers exploded, and then when I reached 88 miles an hour, I traveled through time.
Oh, so that's how you went back, and that's how you flat circle spiraled.
That's how I did it. You like how I did a little callback to our last thingy?
To our last episode. Yeah. Went back to the future. Have we cured Parkinson's yet?
Since our last message? I don't know.
Well, I certainly haven't, but I don't know what you.
Will you find out for me? That's a quote from a movie. There's a great. Have you ever seen Scarecrow? Have we ever talked about Scarecrow? You have muted yourself where you have spontaneously combusted. Oh, that's weird. I stopped hearing you and you stopped hearing me.
I think it was my fault. I think I walked a little too far away from the house and the Wi-Fi got bad. So I came back and you just said it sounded like you were asking me if I ever had a dream where I spontaneously combusted. But is that what was happening?
It's not, but you can go ahead and answer that remix of a question.
Uh, no, I haven't had that dream. Have you?
No, no,
Great conversation piece.
I asked you, I asked you if you'd ever seen the movie Scarecrow, and then you didn't say anything. So I said you've either muted yourself or you've spontaneously combusted. But
I gotcha. Well, neither of
do,
those were correct. Because it was just the internet.
I think I'm going to let the Scarecrow thing go.
Okay. Well, no, I have not seen the movie Scarecrow. Sorry.
I put it on your list. It's an oldie. It's I think early '70s. It's a young Pacino and a reasonably young Gene Hackman, and it's kind of very. It's not very sad, but it's kind of sad. But it's very interesting. And I didn't love it because I loved the story. I loved it because I thought the two of them were just so incredible and so interesting in that. And there's, I guess I have not abandoned the Scarecrow thing, but I'll be brief. There's a scene where Gene Hackman gets really drunk and they're eating KFC, and there's a girl flirting with him. And he's so drunk that he's like slurring his words and he's talking about this car wash that they're going to start together. And she's like really coming on to him strong and like he's not noticing yet. And then finally he's like giggling about something about the car wash that they're going to open. And he feels like, I don't know, her nose on his cheek or something. And he goes, oh, right. you know what's happening now, don't you? He says to everyone. And he says he's dreaming about how amazing it's going to be to have his own business. Just drinking spiked coffee, man, and listening to the hit parade. And then he asks the girl, "Do they still have the hit parade?" And she goes, "I don't know." And he goes, "Will you find out for me?" And that's my story.
That was a. I mean, you. It sounds like you did the impression perfectly.
Thank you for giving me credit for a thing you can't verify, but it sounds to you. I'll take it.
It sounds great to me. It does make me. I wondered if you were like, I don't spike my coffee as a small business owner. I don't spike my coffee, but that may just be because I never drank coffee. Because I definitely get stoned and drink at work sometimes. Sometimes, not like every morning.
Well, I think it's a very specific. His dream was to own a small business. It was a car wash in the 1970s.
Oh, I would get stoned and drunk every day if I just owned a car wash.
Yeah, and listen to the hit parade.
And listen to the hit parade. Are you a coffee person?
I drink coffee. I'm not like real serious about it.
You're not real serious about it. Do you mean that as in like you're not like trying to go down the Bamis hole of tasting all the different roasts and shit, but you drink? Are you like a daily coffee drinker? Like you need it to wake up?
It's funny because I do drink coffee every day, but every once in a while I don't. So I know that people talk about coffee like they talk about caffeine the way they talk about nicotine, but
Yeah.
maybe I still have a dependency on it, even if I think that it really doesn't matter to me whether I drink it or not, because I don't think I feel any different in a way that I can perceive. And also sometimes I'm just like, if I don't drink it in the right moment, I'm like, oh, I don't really have time. I mean, I could, but I could kind of, I don't know. I think it's partly habit, it's partly ritual. I'm a creature of habit.
Yeah.
But to answer the question you ask, mostly every day, yeah.
Okay. That's very, yeah. I like this thought about ritual because I've never drank coffee. I don't like how the feel of I don't like how caffeine feels in my bloodstream, you know? Like I just get like anxious and shit, but I feel it on the bloodstream level. I don't know. Do you ever get that? Like when you're like anxious and you're like, I feel like something is off in my blood, like my blood is a little acidic or something.
I think that I probably have a little more resting anxiety than maybe you do.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah.
I also have been known to indulge in nicotine from time to time, so I'm kind of operating on a different wavelength. So I don't
Okay.
so I don't detect anything. Like I said, when I drink coffee, when I drink a cup of coffee, it's usually because it's very early in the morning, and
Mhm.
and I have to like prepare my breakfast, and I can't handle the truth. So I I'll make a cup of coffee and I'll kind of drink it while I'm opening Tupperware and or Tupperwares, multiple
Yeah.
units of the brand Tupperware, and while I'm setting up my stuff, that's when I drink my coffee, and it's comforting because it's warm. I drink it with milk and sugar, so it's a little sweet. It's
Mm.
just kind of comforting, but it's
Yeah.
not like I remember there's an episode of Perfect Strangers. There's kind of a deep pull.
Yeah.
What's his name? I can't remember the actor's name. It's gonna bother me. But the guy who plays cousin Larry Appleton.
Hmm. Okay.
Um, there's an episode where he's like, "I need my coffee. Give me because the coffee machine is broken or something. I can't. I without my coffee, I can't. What's that? When you make things up in your mind, think. I can't think without my coffee. I don't experience that. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. That is. That's thank God. I am very glad. Like, well, I'm not. I'm not. Part of me thinks I'm very glad, but also part of me thinks it's like these people, these coffee drinkers, so many of them have just a happiness switch that they turn on, and it's
Mm,
not like it just like lasts all day, but like
hmm
it's just like a kick in the. It's like a like I feel like I was like I am fucking. I woke up in a terrible mood. I could not handle the truth this morning. This morning I was just like fuck everything,
mm,
and then I like worked my I had like important meetings, so I couldn't just be the guy coming in with the fuck everything mentality. So I like kind of had to like work myself into a positive fucking attitude. And it feels like some people just have coffee and they're just like, I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna drink this, I'm gonna take a shit, and then I'm gonna be able to handle the next 2.5 hours.
I think that's what it's like for a lot of people.
Yeah. That's a great caffeine must be a great drug, man. I wish I'd gotten into that instead of mushrooms. You can't just take mushrooms in the middle of the
Yeah, I
day.
was
Like
gonna
get through
say
this meeting.
when you said some people the coffee, it's like it hits the happiness switch. I was like, oh, they should drink alcohol,
Yeah.
but you can't like wake up. Oh, there's a great line in Tape that I'm gonna a little bit butcher just to give you the general idea of where who is it? It's Vince. Vince says it to John. He says something about I think he's talking about his movies that he makes because John is a filmmaker, and I think
Hmm.
he says I like it, but you're kind of like whiskey at breakfast. Like I enjoy it, but then I still want my coffee.
uh that's that's
That's a great line.
that's just a wonderful play on words.
Hmm
That's good stuff. I have that I have tape on my desk, and I actually brought it to Italy because I was like this can be uh if I finish Harry Potter thing or if I just want something else to do or something. And then I didn't read it all on my vacation. So I've read like 3 pages of tape. And I really do mean to do it. I have that and I have Home and uh Home and at the Zoo. Is that the fucking name of it? The zoo story and what's Albie's other play?
Um, I think
At Home?
um, it's called the Home Life.
Oh, the Home
I
Life.
think
Right.
I think what happened. And by the way, I was going to needle you a little, like when you said you planned to read Tape in Italy and you didn't. I was going to say, do you feel like a failure?
Yeah,
But
well, I do.
you have to just walk into the ocean. Um, no. So okay. So the zoo story he wrote back in like I don't know, maybe the 50s, which is crazy. Um,
Mm,
and then in like the early 2000s, he wrote the Home Life, which was then performed as Act One, and the zoo story became Act Two. And that
mm.
production, or the whole entire thing together, was called Peter and Jerry. But then later, I heard that it was being called At Home at the Zoo.
Mm. That seems like a terrible title, but also like this motherfucker George Lucas himself.
Mm.
Is that he? Was that it's like, well, I did so well on the original trilogy, I should give myself a prequel, or like, what's the story behind it? Did he have it in mind the whole time, or was he just like, well, I need to write something that I think will be commercially viable, so I'm going to make a prequel with these characters that have already been successful?
That's a great question to which I don't know the answer, but I love the fact that you used Lucas as a verb, and I agree with you. That's what he did to himself.
That is what he did to him. I mean, like many Lucas. I mean, everyone's Lucasing themselves right now. But did Star Wars like kind of kick off the reboot era of movie, because we are just in the reboot era of movies, like
Uh,
everybody's rebooting. And if you look back at the prequel trilogy, like, did that kick it off? It kind of feels like it did.
well, but that's not. But he didn't reboot it. He Lucas did.
Yes, yeah, he prequeled it, but like I'm talking like Lucasing is a subsection of rebooting
I see.
in my mind. Yeah.
Let's go there. Let's go into your fucking mind. Let
That's
me
what
get
on
my
my
hat.
mind. I really love the analogy that you gave in the. I was trying to find a way to see if I could clip it out to make it like a good promotion, and maybe it is. Maybe I'm just like in my head about how I put together promotion clips. But I love that how you were saying like he's like, you go and you do. You're kind of like the extra terrestrial, and it's just like that's just so beautiful, man. That was so good.
Oh, that would have been a good one. That would have been a good one. I like the one
Yeah.
you chose though. The one you chose was good too.
Which one did I choose? It was the Back to the Future part. Yeah.
Well, it opens with you saying something to the effect of, "Oh, this is going to be horrible, except for the fact that we cured Parkinson's disease." I'm like,
Oh
okay, now
yeah.
I'm a listener. Now I'm listening. You've got my attention.
Okay, good. So it worked. Yes, that's good. Starting off with Parkinson's degrees. Jesus Christ.
You did it
Um,
again. You got
that's
Parkinson's
a
degrees.
fucking that I got a degree in Parkinson's, man. I'm going for my master's.
And I
Um,
also I also guffawed the government or government.
yeah, Jesus. We're like just creating if anybody ever listens to this, they're gonna be like, we're gonna like the what is that show that is so like that just like jumps the shark on callbacks. Arrested Development. That's the one I'm thinking of.
Ah,
Has anybody in this family ever seen a chicken? You know, peacock.
I love the because, by the way, in the Gaia messages, and there's like a different version. There's like a thing, and then so because to that.
Yeah,
But also
thank you.
sometimes you get twisted up into a thing, and then you go "Ah," like there's all different. I love it.
Yeah, well,
Uh,
baka is a punctuation mark it's a verbal punctuation mark that gets you from one topic to another when you don't know how to do it yourself. Baka it's a transition. When you found yourself in a conversational moment you don't want to be anymore, you can just baka. All right, we're starting something new.
that's so you're a genius. That's you. This is how we're gonna lead the human race into the future.
Yes. Good. Verbal punctuation. Verbal punctuation is a thing, but do people talk about it like that? Should we just become verbal punctuation experts?
Mm, maybe. I mean, the title of this episode is definitely verbal punctuation. Um,
Okay.
I love this. I love that because I knew exactly what you meant when you said that. It occurred to me that maybe it doesn't make sense technically or grammatically or whatever, but
Yeah.
I don't. I think certain people will talk about those things. I think probably certain actors, which are people who are taking words
Mm,
off a page, or people who are
yeah.
interested in spoken language, because there are verbal punctuation marks. I mean,
Absolutely.
a pause is a punctuation mark, or a face that you make. I was directing one of my students today, and I asked him during a certain moment. He's got like a little pause, and he's got to fill it with a certain thing that's happening to him.
With
And
an
we were kind
emoji.
of he just holds up an emoji. He like he texts it.
Emoji.
He just texts me an emoji.
He
Um,
texts you an emoji and it shows up on the screen behind you. It's that kind of production, a multimedia production.
one
Sorry.
day one day I'm going to produce a play where we use emojis on a big like superscript behind the actors. Um, so I asked him, I was like, while you're working through that, can you just turn down stage while you're doing that? Like as if you're looking for the right words, like you're looking in space, in physical space
Mm.
for
Oh,
what
I
to
love
say.
that. Mm.
You know, I feel like
Man,
that's a verbal punctuation mark. That's a
that
visual verbal punctuation.
yeah. It's so what do we got? We got written punctuation, we got verbal punctuation, we got physical punctuation, which I guess is body language. So what we're kind of talking
Yeah,
about is verbal body language.
but it's more than body language because it also can just be like right now you and I can't see each other, but in my opinion, are utilizing verbal punctuation marks.
Right. Like
You
we
know
kind
what
of
I
said in the
mean?
last episode, like backup vocals, like the mm-ing and oh yeah, and it's like because if you're in person, the backup vocals are like they create the harmony. It's just awkward over Zoom because of like microphones and shit.
Right. Well, I feel like taking a pause or 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 elongating a vowel sound. These are all like verbal diacritics or whatever. And then I think if you give me backup vocals on a thing, it's kind of like taking a highlighter and highlighting a couple of words
Mm, mm.
or changing the
Dude,
color of the font. This is getting a little.
we're going deep in there. We're somehow it's like going to be the verb tense of our AI's italicized personality. I just threw all the words that came into my head. I just tried to put them in one sentence, and it didn't make any sense.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm having a decent time walking through your mind. It's a little cold in here, but it's really colorful.
Well, that could be a little cold in here because I'm outside, and I think I want to be inside. So why don't we take a trip into your mind? And
Oh
I'm
boy.
gonna, yeah, like my cat's gonna try to get outside, so I'm gonna have to sneak around. Anyway, trip into your
Your
mind.
your mind is a bag of cats. Well, I wanted to mention like I feel like we're about due for a little whiskey segment at some point, which maybe we can record as a separate. Maybe like we have tiny whiskey episodes, or if it shows up at the beginning of an episode or whatever. But I do feel like we should pepper that in here and there, or not.
Yeah, I was.
I don't know.
Yeah, I was thinking. I was thinking about the whiskey thing earlier today, also, and yeah, man, let's have a whiskey. Let's do a little whiskey tasting.
You don't mean right now. You mean in general, or do you mean right now?
I mean, right now. No, I mean on this episode if we get the time.
All right.
If you're into it.
Yeah, sure, sure. I'll just have to also go inside and pour something in a glass, but those are both very easy things for me to accomplish if I want to.
Yeah, when you're done with your tobacco stick, when you're done with your version of caffeine or whatever.
That's right. Oh, I had something in the chamber and I don't remember what it was. Going to.
I think I would kind of love to bring the audience into, and by the audience I mean I just think it would be interesting to have this conversation with you again. And I was thinking about it because you make these deep pulls on movies that I'm just vaguely aware you're even quoting anything because I'm just like, that's a really great turn of phrase, and he did a little vocal something with it. Is that from a
Mm,
movie? And then you're like, that was a deep pull. So like, like you and I kind of talked about this. You kind of grew up on movies more than me. That was kind of the thing you like. I did sports, and so I was like watching sports games and playing board game. Like I guess but you really grew up on movies in a way that it was kind of a family thing almost.
I mean, my family would watch movies. Well, my family would watch movies together when I was very little. I think it's more the fact that I had cable. I got cable when I was pretty young. So
Mm,
whenever I was home, I just always had access to, like HBO and Showtime, and they just played
mm,
almost nothing but movies.
yeah,
So I
that's
just watched a lot
such
of
a
movies. Yeah.
That's just such a fascinating thing to think about. Like right now, we live in a time where it's just like any movie, pretty much any movie you want, you can just have, you know. But HBO and Showtime used to be like curators of movies, and
Yeah.
other cable, but like cable channels could just be like basically movie channels. Um, yeah,
Well, it's
just interesting to.
programming. It's TV programming. They program what's going to be on, and then you watch it. And like in those days, if you're going to watch something, like you can turn on the TV because now is the time. I have some time. I'm going to watch some TV. TV
Yeah,
time for me. And here we
yeah,
go. And you go to HBO, and it's in the middle of a movie. And if you
right.
like the movie, or if the movie grabs you, then you watch it from whatever spot. And then when that movie's over, if you're still watching, then you watch the next movie from the beginning. So
Yeah,
and they replay films, so like you end up watching chunks of movies many times, you know,
right. Yeah, you like piece it together like a tattered flag. Uh,
like a
you piece it
tapestry.
together like a tapestry. So that I think maybe that's why I didn't really get into it because we got cable. I mean, I think cable might have been a gift I got on the divorce my dad gave me. I'm not sure, but like we got cable when I was young enough,
Mm,
But I never got like into any of the and maybe that's because I was watching sports games instead because my dad was into sports.
mm.
So maybe that's just like the thing that we did. Um, but I also was always a little bit bothered by starting in the middle, and I still am. Like I feel like unless I've seen it before, I don't want to just start something in the middle. I want to see it from the beginning,
Mm. When I talked to Usher Morgan a few years ago, who's obviously a huge cinephile, he
Yeah.
couldn't understand that I would watch movies like in multiple sittings. He was like, "How can you do that?" And like, but
Yeah.
I do get where he's coming from.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There's also I remember when I went crazy and decided to read all the acting books.
Yeah.
There was a thing from Stanislavski. I don't remember which thing it was, but it was something he wrote. He was like, okay, and when you read the play, read it in one sitting, which I just couldn't always
Mm.
do that. I don't have
Yeah.
Stanislavski's life. I was a
Yeah.
college student at the time and a working actor, and I'm
Right.
like, I'm gonna read this when I have time to read it. Like, I'd love to live in
Yeah.
your world, Stanislavski. Rehearse a play for 6 months or a year, and
Well, have theater be your day job, because if it was your day job, it's just like, all right, on my to-do list today is meet with this, set designer and read a play, you know?
right, right.
Yeah.
I'll tell you something that I find really interesting about myself. I find myself to be endlessly no. I noticed in one of the episodes, I think it's the very last episode we that you just recently published. Because yeah, I'll do like little movie quotes, and I did one at the beginning of this one where I was like, "Will you find
Yeah.
out, Fammy?" And then I felt like, "Oh, let me tell you where that's from. It's from a movie called Scarecrow." But I also here in the last episode, I said a thing, and I didn't realize it while I was saying it, and then when I was listening back to it, I was like, "Oh, that's from Kiss Kiss Bang Bang." What I just said,
Mm.
like
Interesting.
I think it even happens where like I'm not even maybe on some level I was aware of it. I'm not even
Yeah.
sure, but it
You're
just
not
comes out
even
of my
you
mouth.
I think what it is, Bamis, is that you are an AI and you're just a 90s and early 2000s movie AI. You have no original thoughts or sentences. You just are spitting out Robert Downey Jr. and Edward Norton and who's the other one that you're obsessed with? Who I'm talking about, 1408, fucking
Cusack.
Cusack. You're just spitting out Cusack and Downey quotes.
Well,
You're not really that.
you weren't supposed to figure out that I was an evil supercomputer until much later, but here we are.
Okay, so we're both evil supercomputers. That's
Oh,
what
we're
we.
both. That's right. That's right. We're both. Yeah.
So I kind of feel this is very interesting to like think about, like do this arrogant thing of like assuming that we have an audience. But like four people listened to the last episode, so we do have an audience. I'm pretty sure. Actually, I know that people besides you and I are listening to it, and I think even beyond you and I and our partners. So hi, we have an audience. That's interesting. And like, does that get in your head when you're like, it definitely, I feel like I'm definitely performing a tiny little bit, and I feel kind of like a bummer about it. But do you feel like you're performing at all, or am I just getting in my own head?
That's a good question. The short answer is mostly not.
Hmm.
Partly because I'm not 100% certain that that not 100% of those views are self-generated by people within our circle. I mean, very well could be.
Yeah.
Um, but it's such a small number right now. Like if there are 9 views, at least one of them is me, maybe even two of them. So I'm not
Right.
like if the views were like, oh, we got like 50 views on this one, or we got like 100 views, maybe I feel differently. But
What number do you think it would? What's the lowest number you think it could be? That would make you feel a little bit like you were being seen or watched, or yeah, the difference between being seen and being watched is just how you it's just how you phrase it within your head. How many people? I'm going to look up how many people, and I want to get your reaction.
you're going to look up how many people constitutes what?
How many people listened to the last two episodes, or however
Oh, oh, oh!
episodes
I
we
thought you were going
published
to
in
look up
this
like the.
season?
I thought you were going to look up the definition of something. I was like, wait, you lost me. Um, I don't know because I think that I think if there were a substantial enough number of, if there was a large enough listenership or whatever it is, I think that would signal to me that we're doing something right, and I think it would just make me feel that I feel good about what we're doing. I don't know that it would make me self. I probably in some way it would, but it would also
Okay,
signal to me that what we're doing is, you know what I mean? I'm not sure.
that's true.
Um,
That's true. Okay, so just the last one that we published 3 days ago has 8 listens. They're not all you and I.
well, okay. I definitely listened to it all the way through, and then I went back and I listened to most of it again. I also I don't know where it starts counting from because like I started it a couple of times and then had to stop and do something else. So I don't
Right.
know.
Yeah, I guess that's counting.
I feel like between me starting and stopping and between maybe at least listening to it, I don't know how many times you listened to it. So I don't know,
Hmm.
man. I really
All right, that's fair. Here's a just another. Here's a thought. Our first one somehow had our first ever that we didn't even promote had 16 plays,
mm,
and there's no way that there's no way that you and I were 16 whole plays. Just, I mean, it doesn't seem possible.
I mean probably not.
Yeah, I don't
I
know.
I
Anyway, like
I
in the
don't
well, I definitely directly sent it to a couple of people, and they had positive feedback. So those are probably a few of them.
I like if I knew what it takes in order for a view to be counted, I'd have some idea. But like if it's every time I go to it and hit play, even for a second, that could be 16 we could get to that way. Maybe for the first one, maybe I tried to listen to it a couple of times or listen to pieces of it. I don't know how those things work.
Right, right.
I don't know
Yeah,
anything.
I
I have
mean,
no idea what I'm
they,
doing.
yeah, they have to, there's like stuff. There's like a dashboard that tells you, this many people on this day and that, and I feel like there's a small handful of people that are giving it a listen. But anyway, I don't know why do we go down this particular, you know, rabbit hole?
Well, at some point, I don't know if this is the absolute inception of it or the beginning of it, but you were talking about that feeling of like you feel like you're performing a little bit, which you think a
Mm,
little bit sucks. Um,
yeah.
I mean, there's definitely something in my mind. I've kind of, especially when we were a couple of the episodes we had, it took a while to get them out there because we had to go in and make like internal cuts because it's like, oh no, we shouldn't mention this thing by name or that could be taken a
Right.
certain way. And I feel like my computer brain has sort of adapted to that. So I am careful about those sorts. I'm aware of those sorts of things. So in that way, I'm not
Hmm.
just. It's not like I'm doing a Gaia message and I'm saying whatever the fuck I want.
Hmm.
There are those little I can't think of what the word is. They're little guideposts where you got to keep it within a certain thing. But
Yeah.
apart from that, I feel like as long as I'm being kosher in those ways, I feel like I can pretty much just. It really feels like I'm talking to you, and it really feels like until we get 50 listens on something, I'm still operating in the space of like this could still very much just be for you and I. So I'm not, you know
Right.
what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense. I think I just have such a vulnerable spot because I am like uh like there is part of me that is like, I think you talk about like, hey, why did you become an actor? Or, and like I think I just have, if I'm like looking at myself like deep in my soul, I'm like, I have to admit it's because I need affirmation. And it would be nice if it came from the masses. If it was just my mom, I'd probably be a totally different person. But now I need it from the masses. And yeah, it's just, and I kind of assumed that was always a little bit of a baseline for all actory artist people who want to
Mm,
be in public. Um,
mm.
but I guess you have, I guess what brought you to this particular spotlight. So I meant to say spotlight in life, but I think spotlight is the one.
I think
Um,
Spotlife is the
you,
title now.
we've got like three or four good titles in here. Spotlight. Um, Spotlight also does sound like it could be like a fucking like a paper towels brand. Spotlight, just to keep everything clean. Um, But you came to the spotlight in a very different way than I did, I think, like emotionally. And,
Well, I I actually I think I came in a very similar way. I just did it as a child. I was a kid when I started. Um,
when you say kid, what do you mean?
I think I did my first play when I was like 10 or 11. Um,
I did my
and
first movie when I was 10 or 11. Did I ever tell you this?
did you never tell me this? You didn't think of it?
I didn't think of this. I did two Christian movies as a 10-year-old. Little
Oh my
Christian
goodness.
independent productions. My best friend, he remains one of my best friends to this day. Which I'm not sure if I'm allowed to mention people on the podcast, but you have heard me refer. It's John. It's John. You've met John. But his dad was like the piano teacher and the organ player for the local church. His dad was very musically and apparently fully artistically inclined.
Uh,
And I never knew this. Um, but when I was 10, when we were like in fourth grade or something, he wanted to make like Christian family movies because I was growing up in the Christian family world. And so he made a movie called Trouble on the Mountain, and it is about a kid. It was about a camp counselor and a kid, like a troubled camp counselor and a troubled kid, you know, and it's in the mountains of Colorado, and the camp counselor falls off a rock and hurts his knee or something, and the kid has to go say, like, it's a little 45-minute morality tale, Adventist morality tale, and he cast all his kids' friends. So it was him and me and a handful of us. And for whatever reason, and I have no idea why, to this day, but he was like, "You're going to be the lead kid." I didn't audition or anything. He just like, I guess I was just that personality,
hmm.
um, you know. And so, like, yeah, I just got like cast as the star of a little movie. And then a year or two later, we made another one, and my grandmother was like the main character. It was called Grumpy Old Women. Um, So that's how I got my start in acting.
I think you did tell me that. I don't think you went into as much detail.
Yeah.
It sounds
It was
familiar
fun,
to
man.
me. John, yeah.
It was fun to make a movie because the first movie, it was really fun because it was like a summer activity at the local camp, or at the summer camp that we all went to summer camp to. And like I remember like having a microphone, and then there was like the sound guy tent, and it was like the first time I'd ever worn a microphone. And so me and my friends, we were like joking in the cabin at night. It was like we're gonna do like some what was the we're gonna it was like some scary character like Bloody Mary or something. And we knew that the sound guy was listening to us in the tent, so we were gonna be like Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary. And we just thought it was the funniest thing. I just realized I whispered into a fake microphone, but I have a real microphone in front of me that probably just didn't pick that up. So hope that didn't. Um, anyway, I just had, that was my first. That's my first set memory right there.
Wow. So you were 10 or 11 and you were wearing like a lavalier.
Yeah, I was wearing a lav.
Wow. So that's that in some way, because I did a play at the same age, but I didn't do a movie. And in some way it makes
Mm.
me feel like, oh, you started earlier than me because I didn't wear a lav until later. Didn't wear a lav
Mm-hmm.
until later is a phrase.
There we go. That's the subtitle.
But that's really interesting that it was that you started out absent of your will to even be. It was just you were selected
I was
by someone
selected.
who is. That's really interesting. That's really
Yeah,
interesting.
I had no ambition. Like if I don't, I mean, I don't think maybe if I asked my mom like what happened around that, like why did, like I don't even remember thinking it was gonna happen. I was just like, oh, cool, we're gonna do this thing, and I guess I got this part. Maybe maybe there was an audition, maybe there was a reading. I don't remember.
That's
I'm
really
sure he must have
interesting.
done like a table read with all the kids, and like at that point you can probably point it out which kid has the most fun reading fucking other people's words.
Also, I think you're probably safe mentioning John by name because almost everyone's name is John.
Oh, that's fair. All right, that's fair.
Uh,
So
it,
I spell it. It's spelled Jon. Does that make it different? Because I feel like I say Jon.
no, I don't think I'm receiving a difference. I think you're just saying, I hear John, hear John. I think this is the first time and it's changed the way I think of him, that he's not John, but he's John.
It's a little bit different, isn't it? Like I kind of said that as a way to like prank you, and just to be like, is this even a real thing? Like this coloring of the word John with an H or not? And
Well,
you went for it, and it's true. Like it's there. It doesn't sound different in your head. Like it kind of does when you really think about
well, it's obviously the same vowel sound, as far as I'm concerned. But written, Jon to me is short for Jonathan, and John with an H is just John.
it. That's true.
I have a friend John. His name is Jonathan, but nobody calls him Jonathan. Unless you're like
Yeah,
Jonathan, did you clean your room, Jonathan?
oh, yeah. So is John really just John? He just names someone John with an H. You think that H is doing two syllables worth of work? It's
I
not a fucking
wonder.
name.
I mean, if I were more interested in the etymology of names, I would want to find out what's the relation? Because are they two different names, or is it just it's Jonathan, and then it becomes John, and then over time they put an H in there because it's like, well, you can't just be Jon.
Oh yeah. Yeah, is it like does it maybe John is more connected to Juan because it's not like there's a Juanathan, but everybody knows John and Juan are linguistically connected. So maybe it's
Okay,
just like what language it came through.
if I ever have a kid, if it's a boy, he's getting called Juanathan for sure. It'll be Juanathan, and if I have a daughter, her name will be Batman.
That's sexist. Why can't she be Batwoman?
Well, Batman, it will be short for Batmanichka, you know.
Yeah, Batmanichka.
Yeah, Batmanish.
You trying to serve me some Batmanish? You think?
It sounds delicious. A little
You think you don't?
Batmanish.
You know, I'm gonna get up a little Tupperware of Bamanish. I was thinking earlier when you said Tupperware. This is a sharp left turn. When you said
Here we
Tupperware, it's
go.
like it's one of those it's one of those brands that like even if you weren't using Tupperware brand Tupperware, what the fuck
Hmm.
do you call it?
That's like a Xerox machine or a Kleenex or a
I
Band-Aid.
To be honest, I think Tupperware is as strong as Band-Aid. Like I can call a Xerox a copy machine. I can call a what was the previous example you gave? What was the other example?
Xerox
Kleenex.
copy
I can call
machine, Kleenex.
Kleenex tissue.
Hmm.
Although Kleenex used to have its hooks in me a little bit more, but I can't think of another word for. I can't think of another word for Band-Aid,
Well, it's a
and I can't.
bandage. There's no other word for
That is,
Tupperware. What is it if it's not Tupperware?
there's no other word. I mean, so
There's no
there's
other word
Pyrex,
for it.
but Pyrex is specifically the glass one, and so I don't
Py-
know like what's the word for Pyrex, you know?
to me, Pyrex sounds like a material or like an element on the periodic table.
Okay,
Um,
that's fair.
it's it's
That was
made of
well
Pyrex.
branded.
It's
Yeah.
like, is it bulletproof? Yeah, it's Pyrex.
Yeah,
Or
it's
like, is it
Pyrex.
fireproof? Yeah.
What the fuck?
No.
Where on the periodic table does Tupperware land? Hey, what can we use this Tupperware product for? Can we like make a weapon out of it? No, it's just too. It's whatever. It's just like what do we? What could we just like store food in it? Yeah, it'll do a decent job.
Yeah, we can't really make it airtight, but we can keep out the oxygen pretty good for a while.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like it's. I guess it's maybe Tupperware is the like Tupperware and plastic are synonymous. Tupperware is just hard plastic.
What products does Tupperware make? What are they? They're Tupperwares. What
They're
is
t-
it? What are those? Are they
they're
food
they're
containers?
container.
That's
Yeah, I guess what do
nothing.
you call them? Food containers. Yeah,
That's nothing.
that's
That's
not food.
nowhere. That's not anything
I
at all.
I guess they're just containers, kitchen containers.
Get the
Yeah.
fuck out of here with kitchen. Let's start a company called Kitchen Containers that makes band-aids.
We should start a company of kitchen containers, which is like it's the perfect middle between Pyrex and Tupperware.
But we have to have something unique about them that'll drive up that'll make us competitive. They're made out of 100% kryptonite.
Yes, that's exactly it. Hey, they're made out of fully, safely, organically cooled kryptonite, locally
Yeah,
sourced, organically cooled, and filtered kryptonite.
yeah, and it's denatured kryptonite. It's already it's not radioactive.
Yeah, yeah. It's on whatever. How many half lives does it take to not take a life?
I don't know. Ask Mr. Owl. Um, uh, uh, oh, I was gonna ask you a question, but that's another hard left. We can stay in this weird,
Please.
ridiculous Tupperware
I think.
kryptonite, or
No,
has
I
that
think
run its
hard left.
course?
Well,
I think.
I think the audience only recognizes change. This is a phrase that my acting teacher Kelly Kimball. She's an ancestor now. Rest in peace. What's the punctuation there? The late Kelly Kimball. She would always say, like, one of her main mantras was the audience only recognizes change. So when you're preparing a scene, when you're acting in a scene, you should emotionally be changed by the scene or change tactics in the scene and like kind of all of the above. You should, for most shots, a more interesting shot has just at least a little bit of movement, not too much, but a little bit of movement. So like the audience, like they want change, they crave that change. And so in our acting class, it's called ballistics. there's like we do improvise scenes, and there's like a whisper. You whisper different things to, whisper a secret that this person knows about the other character. Whisper, something physical that changes your character. And one of the things is whisper a sharp left turn. So it's like when I think that's a really fun note to play with. Is give me somewhere in this scene, give me a sharp left turn. Let's see what happens.
That's really interesting. How would you whisper a sharp left turn, by the way?
So sharp left turn it can be anything. It can be at some point, like depending on how ridiculous you want to go, it can be like at some point you have to fake an orgasm, or at some point you get really, like you become very angry. At some point you get a phone call and you just put a phone call on hold. At some point you get a call from a spam, something, just anything sharp make it so that it's like more of a thing, but it can be as small as just any like little thing that would change your behavior. Like say
Well,
I like the example of getting a spam phone call while you're in the middle of like breaking up with your girlfriend. You get a phone call and
sure.
it's fucking spam.
Okay, what is the difference between if I were to say to you, make a sharp left turn here in this scene at this moment, versus if I said, I think this is a beat shift? Or is it
I
just a
think
more,
I
yeah,
I think it's just different. It's different poetry than a beat shift. Yeah, I think it's for me.
are they
It's
synonymous or is
more.
it something? Yeah.
I don't think it's something different. I think it's a different way of painting a beat shift. And for me, I guess like I learned beat shift. uh, For me, sharp left turn takes it off the page because when you talk about beats, I think about like script analysis, and I'm writing in a script, and I'm making lines, and I'm saying da 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 here. But because I learned quote sharp left turn in an improvisational session or
Mm.
improvisational context, I guess, like it really melds it makes it more active. It's more about the choice you make, I think. Or yeah, it's also, even if it's about the choice you make, and it's also about just understanding the structure of a scene, which I guess that's the same as beat changes. So yeah, it just feels more active to me, I guess.
That's really interesting. That's really interesting. I kind of love that. It's a very playable note. Take a sharp left here. I mean, it still sounds to me like it's like what you're talking about is it's a shift, and we talk about a beat shift.
Yeah.
Um, it's funny. I don't remember where now, but in some class I was teaching, I asked if people like, do you know what I mean when I say a beat? And someone said like, oh, I asked someone to take a beat, meaning like
Hmm.
a tiny pause.
Right.
Because you'll say
A verbal punctuation,
a
as it
verbal
were.
punctuation, as it were. Yes. So I said, just take a beat, or it's like blah blah blah, beat, and then this, and that's sort of like a beat, like musically or rhythmically or whatever. And
Hmm.
and and I think someone asked, what do you mean when you say beat? And then someone else raised their hand or maybe talked out of turn or whatever and said, well, a beat
Hmm.
is when something changes. And I was like,
Hmm.
right, well, sure, but I would say a beat shift, you know,
Yeah.
versus taking a beat. Um,
So how would
it's
you? Okay, so actually, I want to connect these two things. Taking a beat is different than like beating out a scene. Like a scene will have three kind of beats. Like I'm thinking of it like rhythmically. Like there's four beats in a measure, and that's where
mhm.
I guess we're just really dissecting language now, and just like how we're communicating a thing. But like I'm pretty sure wherever the metaphor of beats in a scene, I'm pretty sure that was inspired by beats in music, right?
Well, have you ever heard the talk about how, and I have no idea how much credence to give to this. This is just one of those things that floats around. there is a widely held belief, I think, that the word beat came out of a conversation between a Russian dramatist and an American dramatist, or at least an English speaking dramatist. And the Russian person meant to say bit, this bit, but it sounded like beat. And so they started saying beat. I even heard once that somebody said bit, but they were eating a sandwich at the time, so it sounded like beat. I think it's probably much more to do just with like accents and dialects or whatever.
Yeah.
The chapter, and this is super nerdy, but there's a chapter in, I think it's probably An Actor Prepares. It's called Beats, Bits, and Measures. And so, like we were talking about breaking up a script into different beats. I've heard that called units. Like you say, okay, mark the beats in your scene, and for each beat, choose an objective or choose an overarching super objective. But then within that, what are the smaller objectives? And then you talk about tactics, like this is my objective, and this is how I'm going about fulfilling that, or whatever.
Yeah.
But what was the question?
I don't remember. I was just beautifully listening to you talk to me about Stanislavski. It turns me on every time.
Gross.
No, I really, I've told you this before. I think you need to fucking write a book on Stanislavski. But I was I'm touching back to that earlier in that wonderful soliloquy you gave. Like, I would be curious. This is a medium sharp left turn. I would be curious to trace the linguistic roots of both the word beat and the word bit back, because those two kind of belong in the same world, and clearly they share most letters, most sounds. So do those two come together in Latin or in Old German or Norman German, whatever, at some point? I guess Normans would have been speaking the French, but fucking I guess Scandinavian. Anyway,
that's really interesting.
I wonder. Yeah.
I wonder. It's really interesting question you pose, because you're right about sonically or phonetically or whatever. They're very, very close in that vowel sound. It's the same two consonant sounds, and then it's almost the same or very close. They're very close vowel sounds. But I wonder what that relationship is.
It feels good to be correct sonically.
What do you mean?
Said I was. No, you just said I was right sonically. And I was like, yeah.
Right
sonically.
It feels good to be sonically. Right sonically.
Oh God, I'm like so sonically aligned right now.
By the way, I have popped inside briefly. Should we do like a 2-minute whiskey thing, or are you not near your whiskey, or what's the story?
I am in the room with my whiskey. So I was actually about to suggest the same thing. I do. I have all the things that are necessary. We just have to decide on a whiskey, and we can also do 2 different whiskeys. But maybe it'd be fun to do the same one.
You're gonna lose your voice if you don't stop screaming at me like that. First of all, yeah. So what do we have in common? What do I have that you have?
What range are we trying to go? Are we trying to have something nice, or are we just trying to have something closer to the old what's the word? The word
I have no idea.
The glass thing. The thing that you keep in the glass, the whiskey that you keep in the glass thing. What's the thing called?
Your
decanter whiskey. Thank you, Jesus Christ. So we're on the decanter to the hey, nice whiskey scale, are we? Not that either of us own anything that's fucking too expensive, but
whatever you want. I can do whatever. Right. The only thing I don't want to fall in the trap, if we do something fancy, I don't want to end up talking about it for a million years. I want to do a little whiskey thing, just so that we are a whiskey thing, and then go on with our lives.
Yeah, I think my life can always go on through a Blackbush. which is
Blackbush.
I feel like Blackbush is a nice elevated. It's an elevated decanter whiskey. You know.
Mm, let me see. Well, okay, there it is. All right, I got
Oh
Blackbush.
God, it smells so good. I cracked it open, and it's just like it smelled like a vanilla tree. What are those trees that when you like take the bark off and it smells like vanilla?
The
Vanilla
vanilla
trees.
tree. I really couldn't tell you, but I'm
Vanilla
gonna grab
trees.
a little copita,
What's
and
a
I'm
copita?
going to copita is the you know what I'm saying
No,
the
no, I don't.
the tulip glasses
Oh,
not
the Glencairns.
well so copita doesn't have the actual tulip shape. It doesn't words like it doesn't come in and then go back out. It's just round,
Oh,
like
it doesn't have that hourglass figure.
shut up,
It's not
guy.
it's not quite as
Um,
sexy.
it's not quite as
Yeah.
voluptuous. Um,
I think I can see it in my head now. Yeah, I think I know
it's
what a copita is.
like a port glass. Um,
Oh, is it short? Does it have a stem or no?
it's short and it has a stem.
Oh,
A copita could be not short. I happen to have grabbed a short one, but no, it's kind of like picture a small white wine glass and then make it even a little smaller. That's like a copita,
oh, okay, okay, yeah, all right, that tracks.
but more narrow, kind of like the meeting place between a white wine glass and a champagne flute.
Okay, I like that. It's the white wine glass champagne flute. That gives me a pretty strong image. Um, so it's bigger. It's going to hold more volume than my, well, if it wants to, it'll hold more volume than my Glencairn.
Uh,
You like how
it well,
I'm giving this glass a volition? If it feels like it could hold more.
yeah, you're assigning it will. Um, well, the one that I have is small. I think it holds about the same thing as a Glencairn. I do have a larger one that's actually made by Glencairn. But yeah, it's thereabouts. I don't think we should talk about this any more than we already have.
Okay. All right, fair enough. So on the nose, it's whiskey colored. I don't. It looks like it's probably whiskey colored whiskey. I'm not gonna. It's got the artificial coloring.
Yeah, it looks like the color is E158 caramel colorant.
Ah,
By the way,
God.
I I'm having to do this outside because Elise just got home and she's bringing some stuff in, and I wanted to just not be in her way. I also
Yeah,
didn't
that's
want
fair.
to have on this podcast the exchange between she and I when she comes in. I'm like, hey, I'm doing the Gaia podcast, you know. So I
Yeah,
came
yeah.
back outside. I nosed it real quick before I came out, and now I'm nosing it again, and it smells totally different because I'm outdoors now. So just that.
Well, do you have a? I mean, do you have a memory of how it smelled inside?
Much sweeter and much less citrusy.
Mm, okay. So now you're getting citrusy. That's interesting.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
getting
getting
most.
fucking limes. Yeah, you go.
Are you getting any like wood things?
Wood
Like I feel
things.
like mine is like woody and like it's kind of the vanilla wood, but like it got away from the vanilla and more into the wood for me.
I mean, I wouldn't have said it if you hadn't said it, but I'll come with you on that.
All right, fair enough. Do you want to move
It's the,
down a hole?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, it's just, it smells like totally different now that I'm outside. But
yeah.
I feel like when I
So
was
when
inside, it was, yeah,
no, no, go ahead.
I feel like oh, I'm getting back to some of the stuff I had when it was inside. I nosed it very briefly, and it was sweeter and more concentrated. Now it's kind of blasted out, and citrus is
Mm,
showing up. It was more
mm.
kind of chocolatey and sweeter in there. What were you gonna say?
Oh, chocolatey. Yeah. Well, I was just gonna say I've had like I might be similar. I don't know what you were consuming before, but I've had a beer, so my on my palate it's gonna be affected from what a Bushmills normally would taste like.
It's very sweet smelling.
Yeah,
The citrus is
sweet wood.
sort of sweet wood. I will very much come with you on sweet wood. Like wood shop, like the smell of like fresh sawdust.
Yeah, or like the band Sweetwood Mac.
Right, that.
Sweetwood Mac and Cheese, brought to you by Kraft. All right, you want to move down a hole?
Sure. It's not about the whiskey. Plancha.
It's not about the whiskey. Hmm. It's pretty smooth.
When you say smooth,
I
what
mean,
do you mean?
it's not one of those tastes that's asking for too much attention. You know, it's not like trying to bite your tongue. You know, it's not. It doesn't have. It's got a little bit of like kick. It's got a little bit of like spiciness. I guess like on the aftertaste, I get a little bit of like cinnamon, um, which
Oh,
has a like
cinnamon.
you get that at all. Yeah, I think cinnamon is what's kind of like sticking around for me. But cinnamon can be depending on what you combine it with. It can like be a little sharper, and this is more
Mhm.
smooth cinnamon.
I'm getting a citrus thing that I don't know if I'd be getting if I were in of doors, but
Hmm.
what before kind of was like surprising and limey is more kind of like one of the other citrus fruits that are just technically citrus, like not a lemon or a lime or an
Hmm.
orange or a grapefruit, but something like I don't know, is a
Like a
kiwi a
blood
citrus fruit?
A kiwi, I think it's no, I don't think kiwi is a citrus fruit,
Is it not? Am I
but
making
it's
that up?
close. Like I think, well, maybe it is actually. I don't know. If it's not,
Something
it's
like
citrus related. You know, it's like cousin citrus.
there's something like sweet, tart, not quite
Yeah,
tropical.
yeah. It's like when I think citrus, I think like everything. It's got to have a little bit of that tart. It's on the tart to shallow spectrum.
Hmm.
Um, so the further you go from that spectrum, the further on the spectrum you are away from the tart shallow spectrum. You know, it's like a three. It's like a multi-dimensional spectrum. But and it's how that goes towards kind of sharpness into cinnamon and into spice and cinnamon.
I think I'll come with you on all of that. Pear, there's like a touch of pear in there,
All right.
which I think the whole thing about Blackbush is there's way more sherry casks involved, but I'm not getting like a lot of sherry on this. I'm getting something that really feels like it was aged in ex bourbon barrels. Um,
Yeah, it does kind of have it like it has a little for me it has a little connection to bourbon or even rye. Like there's something like it's bringing it's keeping that wood taste. I'm coming back to wood. I'm coming back to the wood of the sweet wood.
Interesting. So okay, I wasn't gonna bring this up because I was gonna like, okay, this is our first little whiskey tasting. This is what we're doing, but there's no reason for me to obfuscate this. Right before we started, you said you needed a couple of minutes, so I poured like a half an ounce of Dalmore 12, and I
Okay.
thought maybe I'll nose this and take this tiny little sip of it so that I have some whiskey thing to talk about,
Oh,
which now we're actually doing a whiskey thing live. But I did drink like a nearly negligible amount of a heavily sherried scotch a
well,
little while
that's why
ago.
you seem so drunk at the beginning.
That's
Um,
right.
um, but okay, so much more sherry. You want to like So I have never experienced Dalmore 12. So obviously it's not the most recent thing on my tongue, but you want to talk on your tongue, but you want to talk to me about it a little bit?
Are we talking about Dalmore now?
If it's close enough in your tongue's memory.
Yeah, well, I intentionally tried to like make note of what I was experiencing because I thought maybe I'd talk about it. And then as soon as I drank it, I was like, no, that's stupid. I shouldn't do that. It was a very, very dark, rich, heavily sherried Scotch thing. It was just mountains of chocolate and nuts, lots of nuts, and then those
Mm,
sweet dried fruit cherry notes. Um,
mm.
but the only reason I mention that is just because just to qualify that you and I are, if you're indoors and didn't drink another whiskey before, I am outdoors, and this is meant to be the more sherry influenced Bushmills, and like
Mm.
I think that sherry thing is being muted by the fact that you know, that I did the Dalmore.
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, all right. I mean, this is a good whiskey tasting.
I like
I
it.
very much like a Bushmills, a Black Bush.
There's nothing wrong with a Bushmills whiskey. It's the To me, Irish whiskey is the friendliest race of whiskey.
There's nothing
You know
wrong
what I
with
mean?
Bushmills whiskey. If we're gonna get racist about it, Irish whiskey is more accessible. The Irish are just more friendly than the Scotch, whiskey
I
wise.
feel I feel like Irish whiskey, and I'm talking about like your typical run of the mill
Right.
Irish whiskey.
You're
I'm talking about, yeah,
well.
I'm talking about,
I think that's okay.
yeah.
If we're talking about races of whiskey, I feel like there's Irish whiskey, and then there's almost like Northern Scotch and Southern Scotch, or there's smokies. There's peaty Scotch and there's unpeated Scotch. I feel like they're kind of like, and I think unpeated Scotch. Well, I mean, peated Scotch is very polarizing. It's like it's the
Hmm.
IPA of Scotch. If you either fucking love it or you hate it.
Right.
But unpeated Scotch, I feel like is pretty welcoming. Um, Whereas I don't think any American Scotches, any American whiskeys are welcoming. Would be not be how I described it. But I don't know. What do you think? Like for me, non-peated Scotches are on the same, top of the races of Scotch as far as welcomingness whiskeys.
Well, I thought it was funny when I brought race into it, and then you continued that trend. Now you're creating a hierarchy of races, and I'm getting nervous. Listen, Adolf. Um, as fuck,
I'm a whiskey Nazi. That's what I am. It's true. There's certain
you're the
fucking people
whiskey
that make
Nazi.
whiskey better than other people.
Well, so okay, all right. So
Not better, just differently.
I didn't mean to talk
I
this
think it's
much
coming
about
down to,
whiskey.
well, here we are.
Here we are, and let's do it. Let's go. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, like, I know I was framing it as like a hierarchy of good versus not as good, but I think we're talking more about like welcomingness. When I don't think that's like welcomingness to me is smooth and sweet. Where not that
Hmm.
everybody is gonna like that, but you give somebody peaty, and you never know how they're gonna react. If you give somebody something smooth and or sweet, they're probably going to be like, it's going to be a more comfortable experience. There's a higher percentage chance that they'll be like, oh, this is good. It's why
Hmm.
cocktails take the alcohol part, and I'm not going to say water it down, but they sweeten it up.
Yeah. Well, cocktails
So
also they do also literally water it down.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I would say like Irish and like not unpeated Scotch do the best job of like whatever we're trying to do to avoid the taste of alcohol, whatever the offensive thing about the taste of alcohol, not even the taste of alcohol, but like it's just less sharp, I guess is for me, sharpness is how it comes down. But
Yeah, the heat
that's
of the
where I taste
alcohol,
it. The heat of it, yeah,
the
the
burn.
burn.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Yeah.
and I feel like we've talked about this before, not on this particular podcast, but there are whiskeys that I have that have a higher proof, but present less sharp, less spicy, less hot, less burny, more smooth. If you're like any whiskey aficionado who's listening to this conversation, you're using the word smooth is like rolling in his grave. But yeah,
Well, they can fuck themselves.
Yeah, if you're gonna give me a hard time about using the word smooth, I mean, you should go listen to something else.
Right. This is a linguistics podcast, and we'll do whatever we want with our words.
But yes, I think as far as a friendly whiskey, an accessible whiskey, I feel like there's a very close relationship. I agree with you between most Irish whiskey or your sort of general middle of the road Irish whiskey and your sort of general middle of the road unpeated Scotch whiskey. I mean, they're very closely related in the way they're made, what they're made out of. They're very closely related. So absolutely yes to that. In Scotland, you've got the regions. You've got what are they officially? I think it's 5 regions, but whiskey drinkers talk about the 6th region, the islands. And so yes to all of that. I think so. You got like so Bushmills. Okay, for example, what we're drinking. That's gonna be Bushmills. Let's see if I remember. Okay, so it's not single pot still. It's single malt. It's Irish single malt blended with Irish grain whiskey. So you've got whiskey that's made from barley blended with whiskey that's made from probably mostly corn or wheat. The barley whiskey will be made in a pot still, and then the grain whiskey will be made on a column still, the way like most American whiskeys are made. And then in Scotland, you're kind of doing like the exact same thing. Maybe the grain whiskey will have a different percentage of wheat to corn or whatever those grains are. Also, the barley whiskey will only be distilled usually only twice, and in Ireland it's much more common to do it 3 times. But yeah, those are going to be your really kind of sweet, friendly, maybe more fruit forward. Those things. Did you ask a question? Why am I speaking?
I can't remember, but I was just thinking to myself, Bamis is a formidable individual. You've got like you know stuff, man. Your brain is like an information hub. You just know stuff. For me, I'm like, I know some stuff, but like most of my knowledge is inside my heart or whatever. Like I just kind of flop around the universe, like making instinctual decisions. And you're just like you just know shit.
Oh, that was it good for you? That was very good for me.
Maybe our wives shouldn't listen to this episode.
This is adultery. I do want to touch on American whiskey. You said something really interesting about American whiskey because you think it's less friendly.
I think American whiskey is way less friendly.
Okay, so can you articulate why you think that?
Well, whenever I drink most American whiskeys, not all of them, but most American, my identifying features is like I think it's rye. That's just like it feels like you stick out your tongue and somebody hits it with a baseball bat, like a wooden baseball bat. That's how I feel about like your standard American whiskey. Like if I just order a bourbon, like a well bourbon, I feel like it's like there's like a 60 to 70% chance that my tongue is being assaulted by wood, and like I think maybe that's why there's the appreciation of like the twice and thrice distilled versions. I mean, I don't know how many times they distill things here in the States, but like I feel like they call it an ex-bourbon cask for a reason. Like bourbon is made in virgin oak, and so it's like getting all those
Right.
fresh wood tastes, all the chemicals it's
Yeah.
soaking into it. And I don't
Yeah.
like it. I don't want to lick a tree, bro. I love
Yeah.
trees. I'll hug them. I don't want to lick them.
We just lost all the bourbon drinkers, but that's fine.
I know. I know. I'm sorry. I'm so like I'm pretty patriotic, but not when it comes to whiskey. Can I
Me
put you on
too.
monologue for a second? I gotta pee real bad.
Okay.
I just all right. Go.
I mean, something else. Yes. So, yeah. So it's obviously not surprising what you say about the intense wood impact, because I mean, that's physically, chemically what's happening there. There, and more in this country, people are doing, um, what do you call that? There are people. Bagel went to a distillery during the pandemic, I think. Was it during the pandemic or like right after? He went to a distillery somewhere in our surrounding, the five boroughs, and they weren't doing tours, and there was nobody there except the master distiller. And he knocked on the door, and the guy let him in. He was like, "We're not really doing tours today, but okay, yeah, here, I'll pour you some whiskey," which is so cool. And so he tasted them through like their more traditional, okay, this is virgin oak, blah, blah, whatever. There's a bunch of corn. It's made on a column still, and then virgin oak for a while, and it tastes like sawdust. Um, but he had one thing that I think Bagel said he pulled right out of a barrel or right out of some kind of cask. And I think he tasted it like at barrel proof, if I'm not mistaken. But it was essentially what like a single malt scotch is, just made here. Like it was made exclusively with used oak. I think it was
Mm-hmm.
100% barley. Because they call
Yeah.
things single malts here that are not. It's not a single malt in the same sense. Like there are other grains in there, but it's got at least 51% barley, so they call it a single malt or whatever.
Okay.
But I think it was made very much in the style of the old world, if you will, or
Right.
whatever. But by and large, people are making bourbon. There's a lot of bourbon. I mean, lots of
Yeah.
bourbon, rye, whatever, and it's so you're gonna get a lot of oak on those things. Um, and I've come back to bourbon over and over. I come back. I'm like, all right, and I try to come to it with an open heart, and I just there's something in there. It's different. It's different
Yeah.
from Scotch or Irish or even Japanese, whatever the fuck that is, or the so-called
Japanese is
world whiskeys.
I feel like Japanese is like just doing its best impression of each of the like Japanese whiskey. It's just like, all right, we're gonna do a Japanese scotch. We're gonna like they're just trying to. They're not like trying to make Japanese whiskey. They're trying to like make awesome scotch that happens to be made in Japan. And I gotta be honest, I think they're doing a fucking great job. And they did the same thing with German beer back in the day. So the Japanese know what's up.
Well,
If we're talking about
um,
race.
if we're to, let's go back to race and the Japanese are the master. They're the master distillers.
that
You like that?
was
So
so
I
good.
I don't remember his name anymore, which is funny to me because I used to know his name. I used to know all their names, and I can't think of them now. But the guy who
Mm.
they sort of refer to as like the father of Japanese whiskey is a guy who went and spent some time in Scotland, and he fell in love, I think, with a Scottish girl, and then both of their families
Like you
disowned
do.
them, like you do.
Like they do.
And then he moved back to Japan, and he wanted to make whiskey in the way that he had learned to make it in Scotland. And at first, the Japanese people weren't into it because they were like, "What the fuck is this shit?"
Hmm.
Um, and then he got together with another guy whose name I don't remember, who was sort of, I think he was the one with the capital, and then they started Suntory whiskey together. Um,
Mm.
and and the original dude whose name I don't remember, um, started to make things that were more sort of accessible and friendly. What we're talking about, no peat, unpeated
Mm.
Scotch style whiskey, and then later, once Suntory had some success, he went off then and started his own company, and that was what's the name? Nika. So both Suntory
Okay.
and Nika were started by the same dude. But then when he went to
Yeah.
Nika, he started to do more of what he was making the whiskey he wanted to make, which is why Nika tends to be more like,
Mm.
not that I know that much about Nika, but I think they do some peated stuff. Then they have like I forget what it's called. They do stuff in continuous stills, but then they maybe they age it like Scotch. I don't remember
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely that Japanese whiskey started admiringly on the heels of Scotch whiskey. And they
Yeah.
didn't have laws for a long time, so like they would import whiskey and then call it Japanese whiskey. They're getting better
Right.
about that these days.
Yeah. Isn't that a very interesting thing that we make laws about to turn this political? Like are they laws as in they're in the law books of Scotland? Like like who controls the laws of whiskey? Is it just like is there just a whiskey federation or something that everyone is like, all right, yeah. Or is it like in the Scottish law books that Scottish Parliament or whatever has voted on? It's like, well, it's got to be X bourbon, you know, what I'm saying? Like, where does the law derive power? Asks John Locke. He was talking about, for the nation. I'm just talking about for whiskey.
Um, I don't know what the relationship is between the documents written about what the so-called laws are and like bodies of actual government.
Okay.
But whatever it is, it's very strong because the SWA, the Scotch Whiskey Association, I suppose, they have like rigid rules, and one of them is that it has to resemble the general idea of what Scotch whiskey tastes like. There was a thing, Compass Box.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
They make like
um,
Peat Monster. They make like really bold blends.
yeah, so that was a guy. I think he's American. I know his name, John Glazer, I think is his name. And
Mm-hmm.
he decided like he wasn't going to make any whiskey. He was just going to it's a blending company like Johnny Walker.
Right. Yeah.
He's just going to buy casks and just do interesting blends. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and one
What a life
thing
that would be, huh?
oh yeah, yeah. He was putting wood in the barrel. I think he was putting in
No
like
shit.
I forget what type of wood it was, but he would put like a little piece of some other tree inside the barrel to create these flavors. And the SWA told him to stop. They were like, no, that's not
Really?
Scotch as far as we're concerned. I wonder how much of that had to do with the fact that he's not a native Scottish person.
Yeah, that could be.
Um,
But like also what's stopping him from doing that, selling it and calling it, instead of calling it Scotch, calling it Scotch drink, you know? Yeah, like calling
well,
it or calling it just whiskey. Like so you can't call it Scotch. Like can you make non-Scotch in Scotland? I guess you can, right? Like what the fuck?
I don't think there are any
Yeah.
laws that say like you can't distill spirits unless you make scotch. I just think in the case of John Glazer, in the case of Compass Box, he
Mhm.
already had established the company and they make scotch.
Ah,
So he wasn't
gotcha.
going to stop making scotch.
So
He
all right.
wasn't going to fuck with the federation, you know.
Yeah, all right. So he wasn't, and he also wasn't about to like start, Compass Hat or whatever. He didn't
Right.
want to like start. No, I mean, that's the thing that's interesting for me is like as a entrepreneur, if you like have an idea you think is really good, like he could have made hay out of that. Like he could have been like, we got kicked out of the Scotch Federation for this, this whiskey. They don't want you to have it because it tastes too good. I mean, obviously that's a ridiculous marketing campaign. But like you could make a little bit of hay out of that. It's just like, yeah, hey, we're making the first non-Scotch whiskey in Scotland,
I
and
think that Yeah, yeah.
No. I was just riffing on what I'd already said.
I was just wanted to say this before I forgot it because I think you're right, but I think that's something that one might do if they were at the very beginning of their, because Compass Bucks I think was already an established thing and they were having success, and then they did this one thing that SWA said don't do that, and they were like, all right, we won't do that. We'll keep doing it. If it were at the beginning and they
Yeah.
started making whiskey and then they caught shit from the organization, they'd be like, all right, well, fuck you then. We'll call it something else. But
Right.
they
Right.
already were making Compass Bucks, you know.
Yeah, but like they couldn't just form another LLC, you know. I guess they would have to get a whole different distillery. It's not that easy. Fair enough. Um, all right. I think I need to give us what time is it? 7:49. I need to give us a 10-minute warning.
All right.
And maybe this is ample time to get off the whiskey topic and take another, you know, not I wouldn't call it a sharp left turn, but if we just like took a leftward bend around the river of
Sounds
conversation.
good. Well, is there any Harry Potter for us to talk about?
Oh, probably. I actually was reading it like until so I just finished the chapter where the chapter is called "The Madness of Mr. Crouch." So I'm still in Goblet of Fire, and so we're in between task number 2 and task number 3, and
Okay.
let's see here. So Sirius Black just came back. They met Sirius Black up in the cave, and so what happened? Victor
Oh,
Crumb pulled.
by
So this
by
is.
the way, for
Mhm,
any hypothetical entity that's listening to this, this is your
mhm.
official spoiler alert for Harry Potter.
Oh yeah, this is a spoiler alert for the first 3 books and 563 pages. Um, that's how much you'll get spoiled. You kind of teased me in a message earlier where you're like, there's just like you're reading things now, they're setting things up, and like obviously I knew that it's a 7-book series. Of course, things are going to be being set up in book 4 that are going to like pay off in book 6 and 7. But you
Hmm.
fucking teased me with it, you little bastard.
Sorry.
What are you gonna do?
Well, look at it this way: like you've got, there are going to be things that are going to be paid off. Like just enjoy the story and know that
Yeah.
it's going to continue to develop, and these characters are going to continue to develop. A lot of really interesting shit happens, and the next one I think is the Order of the Phoenix. A lot of shit is going to go down in the Order of
Mm.
the Phoenix, and
Yeah.
then yeah.
It's kind of really fun because it's like do you ever watch the like I guess it's like I'm reading through a book series that you like. It's like if you went to watch The West Wing. Did you ever watch The West Wing?
I did not.
All right, so it's like this 7-season show. I was obsessed. I watched it through like 3 times in college and in my early 20s and early 30s and late 30s and probably again in my early 40s. You know, it's one of those series you just gotta watch every 5 years or whatever. And in my opinion, it has just the best 7-year romance arc on television that I've experienced, and just like a beautiful payoff, like just a perfectly. They didn't fuck it up. They didn't overdo it. They didn't underdo it. Like they just fucking nailed it. And it's like I'm kind of in this. I'm going through this thing, and you're like, there's so many things that J.K. Rowling, LOL, you know, there's so many things that she just nails, and clearly she does a good job. This doesn't mean it's like the best literature in the world. I don't know how I'm going to feel about it in the end, but you know, there's things that you're excited for me to read about, and I'm like, for me, I'm on the Hermione Ron ride, and part of that is because I know how it's going to end. I know that Hermione and Ron end up together. I mean, and if they don't spoil that. I'm going in assuming that they are, and I'm really enjoying watching the development of that. You know, it's very interesting to watch a romance develop from before they know it's romantic. Like I'm right now in the middle of book 4, so I'm pretty much halfway through, and I don't think Ron and Hermione know what's happening between them, but the author does, and a
Hmm.
reader, like, you know, like probably the readers if I was reading this as a 14-year-old, I might not even know what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
But reading it
Mm-hmm.
as like a 38-year-old that has like the life experience and also the spoiler content, like living in a culture of spoilers, um, it's just really fun to watch unfold. And I
Yeah.
love this little weird, bizarre love triangle that they set up with Victor Crumb. And it's like both Harry and Ron idolize Victor Crumb, and Victor Crumb somehow becomes involved with Hermione, and
Mm-hmm.
Harry and Hermione have nothing going on, but all the rumors are saying that they do. And Ron and
Uh-huh.
Hermione are clearly the ones that have something going on. It's like this beautiful, like triple love triangle. There's like, it's like a love hexagon with four characters. I don't know how they did it.
Mm. That's really interesting. That's really interesting. Yeah, because I never really cared that much about Harry Potter. I don't think I watched all of the movies. I think I watched most of them,
Mhm.
and maybe one or two of them I've seen multiple times, or at least parts of it multiple times. And so, yeah, there are things that I know that I'm watching develop, and it's funny. There are certain things where I'm like, I thought this was going to be like this, but maybe I'm misremembering, and maybe it's not. And so, yeah, it's really
Mm.
interesting to read these books in a post Harry Potter world, you know.
Yeah, in a post Harry Potter world. That's the
That's the
fucking title
title.
right there. That's so
Hmm.
good. We really probably should do that. We should just like put Harry Potter in the title of every single one of our episodes, and then we'll build a following that way. We should just, if we
That's
ever
true.
actually like, we should just hashtag Harry Potter on all these.
Hashtag Harry
So
Potter.
yeah, hashtag Harry Potter. Knowing you and I, most of our conversations, we're at the 4-minute warning, and most of our conversations are,
Hmm.
any one of us is liable to go on a 7-minute rant. So I am going to pour myself a nice little splash, and maybe declare this toast out time, if that's all right with you.
All right, let me. I want to clarify something or qualify something, maybe both.
Is it because you're?
Uh,
Is it because you accidentally said something racist?
I don't think I did, but you'll let me know.
All right.
It's the so okay. So my toast that I will say, it's very much got the idea from the Whiskey Tribe.
Yeah.
They didn't create it, but they dug it up somewhere and then adopted it as their toast out. Um,
Yeah.
they don't do the first bit. They don't include what is it? Here's to cheating, fighting, stealing, and drinking. If you
Hmm.
if you cheat, may you cheat death. They just say, if you fight me, you fight for a friend. If you steal me, you steal a lover's heart. And if you drink me, you drink with us. And I think originally it was, may you drink with me. So what I
Hmm.
do is, here's to fighting, stealing, and drinking. If you fight me, you fight for a friend. If you steal me, you steal a lover's car. That occurred at some point in time. But what I say is, and if you drink, remember Sammy Jenkins. It's not about the
So
whiskey. And then I say Slancha.
who is Sammy Jenkins?
Sammy Jenkins is a character in Memento, and Guy Pearce's character, he's got all those tattoos to remind him who
Yeah.
he is and what's going on.
And there's a tattoo that says "Remembered Sammy Jenkins."
Remember Sammy Jenkins. And I don't want to put in
Oh,
another spoiler alert for the movie Memento, but
oh,
there's
I gotta
there's a
rewatch that
lot.
one.
If, Go and watch if you have occasion. Go and watch Memento. It's a great film, but there's so much in that being the last thing before I say it's not about the whiskey and then clink and slancha, because it's a reminder. It works on so many different levels. um, so I don't say may you drink with us. I say remember Sammy Jenkins, and
All
I
right,
kind of
so
do a little bit of a Guy Pierce.
let's construct this outro toast live on the podcast, and it's going to end with it's remember Sammy Jenkins. It's not about the whiskey. And the obviously the it's not about the whiskey is, even if we talk about whiskey this whole episode, it's about the people. It's about the friendship. It's about sitting around the fireplace. So we
Right.
go from it's not about the whiskey backwards to remember Sammy Jenkins. What
No,
is
I do
or
remember
yeah.
Sammy Jenkins. It's not about the whiskey in the United States. Not that's what I do.
Yeah, no, I mean that's what we do now. We're adopting the official letter of the law of the It's Not About the Whiskey podcast.
This is the
Um,
Scotch Whiskey Association. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So what I did last time that I kind of enjoyed was I picked three different verbs, or I picked two different verbs. I
Right.
said, here's to, so what if we did a thing where we like, whoever's doing the toasting, usually it's me. I just picked three verbs and we got to improvise a little toast out based on those.
Sure. Do we include Sammy Jenkins or do we not?
I think we should include Sammy Jenkins. So what's the last phrase? And if you drink, remember Sammy Jenkins. So maybe it's just a serve and a return.
Okay.
Yeah. So here's to something, something, and some. Here's to 1, 2, and 3. If you won, may you one with us. If you two, may you two with your sister. And if you 3, remember Sammy Jenkins.
Well, all right.
All right. So that's it. Here we go. All right. I've analyzed this game enough. Thanks for listening. And here's to dancing, juggling, and farting. If you dance, may you dance with music.
If you what was it?
Dancing.
Oh, juggling. If you juggle, may you juggle with your sister. And if you fart, remember Sammy Jenkins.
Remember Sammy Jenkins.
It's not about the whiskey. Plancha. Hail Satan.
Peace and love.
Okay.